The Wheel of Time, Episode 2, Review and Discussion. Tyler, let's start Episode 2 by reading a summary. I'm going to read the summary of Episode 2. Are you ready? Okay,
Yes.
great. Shadows Waiting is the title of the episode. In a Whitecloak encampment, the Whitecloaks, Perrin and Aes Sedai. The Two Rivers villagers, Matt, Egwene, Rand, and Perrin, flee with Moiraine and Lan from pursuing Trollocs and a Fade, aka Lord Voldemort. They flee across the ferry at Tarren's ferry. To prevent the Trollocs from following, Moiraine uses the One Power to sink the ferry, incidentally killing the ferryman. We're going to talk about the relation between those two events, disturbing the villagers. Along their journey to Tar Valon, I'm going to say Tar Valon because that's how it's pronounced in the audiobooks,
Sure.
Egwene learns that she has the potential to channel. Perrin encounters wolves. The villagers have disturbing dreams about the Dark One, and they mistrust and tension between Moiraine and Lan and the villagers grow. Moiraine grows wearier and exhausted from her injury, and when the Trollocs catch up, Lan makes the hasty decision to have them enter Shadar Logoth, again, that's how I'm going to pronounce it, to escape. While in Shadar Logoth, the group is attacked and separated by Mashadar, the twisted evil that inhabits the city. The group is separated and disoriented, and Nynaeve is revealed to be alive and confronts Lan about the villagers. That is Episode 2.
Well,
now,
we got a lot to talk about here, Just.
we do have a lot to talk about. I want to start with the opening. So
Yeah.
we actually get an opening credit-ish thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know about you. I'll let you say it first. What did it remind you of?
Which opening credit?
The opening credit where there's actually like the wheel is weaving and making
Oh,
pictures.
right. For me, a bit like, hold on, what's the show? Westworld. It kind of
Yeah,
reminded
it's
me.
exactly like Westworld. That's exactly what I thought. I was like, this it reminds me exactly of Westworld.
Yeah, it was cool though. I like Westworld better, at least their first one. I didn't like season 2 quite as much, but the first season Westworld opening, and just the first. Hey, all the crap we're giving this show, I have almost nothing bad to say about Westworld season 1. Absolutely amazing.
Westworld
Season 2, season 3, I have lots of criticism. First season of Westworld. Oh my God, what a show. What a show. Right from the opening, too. So in the opening, too, of this season 2 show here. Episode 2, rather. We have it's one of the Children of the Light, and he's like eating some spiky monstrosity.
Some spiky chicken. Spiky baby
it like starts bleeding. I'm assuming this was kind of like the fish tank rocks thing that I ate. Like he made a mistake, but he's just trying to play it off like he didn't. I mean, he's bleeding out of his mouth.
Obviously much tougher than you.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, right? He's just like playing it off like it's no big deal. Like he meant to eat something that's making him bleed. Like, come on, man. Of course you didn't.
Yeah. Was it Valda? Is that his name? I'm looking at my notes.
Yeah, it's
Valda.
Yeah. And then on top of that, he's eating that thing, and then he's cooking some lady. And then he's like,
cooking a lady.
Right. And then he's taunting her the whole time. And Justin, I don't know about you, but my mom always taught me that you don't play with your food. And I thought that was a bit disrespectful. Like, if you're going to cook a lady, sure. But you know what I mean? Like, let her have her moment. While you're cooking her, you can almost sit in silence, right? You don't need to be taunting or playing with your food. You know what I mean? I just felt like you got to have boundaries. A man has to have a code. And if you're gonna cook a lady, you know what I mean, do it respectfully. That's all I'm saying. That would just be my biggest point.
That's a fair point.
And then this is one too, where then I think shortly after that scene, that's where we see the Trollocs in the daytime for the first time, and that's one of those ones where like, you met the girl at the party and she looked really nice while you were drunk and you were under the dark lights of the bar and stuff, and you wake up in the morning, you're like, oh my God, what have I done?
You're like, Jesus Christ, I gotta get out of here. Get the Escalade.
Right. Yeah, but that's where you're throwing the bed sheet out the window and like you're scrambling down to get out of there because, man, do they not look as good in the light. And the scene where they're kind of like all running through the woods or something like that. Oh my God, it looked really bad. Did not look like natural movement to me whatsoever. Again, if I'm in that boardroom, I'm looking at that and I'm dumping my ash on my poor people. And I'm like, we got to do something about these Trollocs. And I can't believe they didn't. I don't know how you'd see that. And just, it's a short little scene. Just touch it up a bit. Make it look a little better. Do something to disguise a little more. But, what can you do?
So Valda and the Whitecloaks, that scene was fairly terrifying, and I thought it was a good scene. I think it was the cold open, and then they played the opening credits. I think
so.
Let us know in the comments down below if we're wrong. And then I believe we cut to Nynaeve, and we find out that Nynaeve is in fact alive. If anybody who's read the books knows that, of course, Nynaeve is alive. Yeah. But they actually show how she gets away from the Trollocs. Now, Now, this was like equal parts kind of cool and neat and interesting, and equal parts frustrating from a realistic perspective of how they shot the scene. And
of her getting away?
Yes.
Well,
yes.
that's episode 3.
Is it episode 3?
Yeah, I'm almost positive. Almost positive.
Oh, you might be right. Are
Yeah.
you right?
I think I'm right.
Oh, you're right.
Am I
Episode
right?
3. Episode 3 opens on her escape.
Yep.
You're
So
right.
we will
pass.
circle back to that.
Pass.
All right. So pass. So Justin, we spoke about Game of Thrones and the similarities between the two shows for episode 1. Here's another one. The shot of the Trollocs at the edge of the water. What did that remind you of, Justin? White Walkers.
That's obviously home. Hard Home.
Hard Home.
One of the great battle scenes in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
Where they get away on the boats in the water as we meet the Night King, who walks out onto the dock and stares at Jon Snow, and Jon Snow stares at the Night King, clearly showing that there's a connection and that the two will meet at some point to battle for the fate of the North. Spoiler alert, they don't.
We always find a way. We always find a way to vent about Game of Thrones in any conversation. Doesn't matter what we're talking about, where we are. We'll find a way to vent about Game of Thrones.
The final season or 2 of Game of Thrones.
But Justin, this brings up a larger point, which is why is it that like monsters are all so terrified of water? Like why is that? Because? Why is it? Like these things just look like dumb monsters. Why don't they just try, even if they can't swim? I mean, figure it out. Who cares? Just dive in like dumb zombie. Like you're all just afraid of water. I mean, there's lots of think about this, right? They're almost like part horse. Horses can freaking, they can go in the water. They're not scared of water, and they're like half horse. Gary Busey swims, and they're like part Gary Busey. He swims. All right.
Probably. Do you know? No,
he definitely does. He puts on a little. Gary Busey puts on a Speedo and a swim cap, and he swings every morning. And he'd give you a reason why he does. I guarantee it. That's exactly what Gary Busey does. And he's not afraid of water. And so you're telling me this thing is concocted of like, a horse and Gary Busey and all these other things, all that are not scared of water, but they are like, come on, man. Like, I just don't get that. But then one of them goes in water. But then later on, right? So when Moiraine, Nynaeve, right? Well, that's a different episode.
They're afraid. I believe Moiraine says of deep water. They're afraid of deep water. Now,
so they can judge the depth of water by sight.
Yes, my boy Ryan George would say, "Sir, I'm going to need you to get all the way off my back about this. They're afraid of deep water. That's the way it is."
Okay. So, like, could you fool?
Why? Why? So the movie can happen, right?
Like, my God, that is absolutely ridiculous. But whatever. So the Trollocs chase them to the edge of the water. They take the ferry across, right? They have a little ferryman, right, takes them across.
Mm-hmm.
But then, like, he's being an idiot, and he's like, well, I'm going to go back, despite the fact that clearly I'll be killed if I go. Like who in their right mind would just be like, it doesn't matter what's on the other side. You'd say, I need to find a different way back, right? Like, say you had family over there. You had your loved one over there. I need to go back. I'm not going back that way because clearly I'll just be killed. But I need to go back. There's a ton of
monsters over there.
Right, because there's a bunch of fucking monsters. So he like...
You can see the monsters.
You can see the monsters. So he starts like putting the ferry back over there, but then Moiraine, thankfully, and I didn't know she had this power, she just turned the whole thing into a toilet. And I was like, holy shit.
She has toilet powers.
Powers. And so she turns it into a toilet and flushes the ferry along with that little turd of a ferryman down the drain and flushes him away for good. And thankfully, because again, that guy was an idiot. He
was an idiot. So what is the Emmons Fielders problem with what happened? Because it becomes like a moral point of view where then Rand's like, well, what if we get out of line? You gonna kill us or get rid of us? It's like, whoa. He tried to send the ferry back to the monsters, and she's like, you can't do that. We can't let them cross
idiot.
or we're all gonna die. So she starts to sink it, and then that moron's like, you killed my son, and just dives into the whirlpool and kills himself. And she's like, yeah, sorry, that's unfortunate. What do you want me to do?
Like, my God. Like, yeah, I mean,
and the Emmons Fielders are like, that wasn't cool, Moiraine. Like, what was she supposed to do?
You're right. No, I completely agree. It was nonsense. That guy deserved to be flushed like the turd he was. Again, nothing wrong for wanting to go back for the loved ones, but let's be smart. If you just get yourselves killed, no one's saving your loved ones, right? What if who was it? His son? Is that what it was? It was his son. His son is not going to be saved if he's dead. All right. So running in to a sea of Trollocs is not going to save your son, you moron. Right. So, and this is again where it just, yeah, of course, there's always going to be stupid people. But I don't know. I feel like a lot of people have some semblance of self-preservation to where they're like, well, no, come here, buddy. Look right there. Like, you go back over there, you're just dead.
You're like them's monsters.
them's monsters
over
and
there.
I just turned this pond into a toilet. So, like, there's no getting through, buddy, right? You're either going to be flushed or you're going to be stabbed.
Yeah.
So, but and so he dived in. He's a moron. I don't feel bad for him at all. I mean, my goodness. Ask for another route. Ask for her to do something else to help. But just saying, like, I'm going to go back on the trolley into the sea.
And then they're all mad at Moiraine. And again,
You're
if
right.
I was there, I'd be like, what do you fucking want her to do?
Right, exactly.
Stop sinking the thing and stop it. And the guy committed suicide because he's a moron. What more do you want? Right?
Yeah.
The two rivers, Tar and Ferry is now better without that moron.
I couldn't agree more. We should all rejoice at his demise.
Cheers at his death.
Right. You know what? We'll all drink to that.
That's right.
So then what happens? What we have Moiraine try some hypnosis on Egwene. And honestly, it's pretty good. It's a good trick. She's actually great at birthday parties. She does these things where like she can get people to bark like dogs and stuff like that, and walk around all crazy. A really neat little trick. It's just the power of suggestion, though. So I didn't think that was that impressive. Oh, so and this reminds me of another thing, Justin. So we're talking about in episode 1 the fact that Rand is breaking off kisses and stuff, talking about berries and whatnot. Now we have another situation where Rand is like freezing his ass off. He's sleeping on a cold floor next to a cold rock wall. Wakes up next to a beautiful woman and says he needs to be alone. And apparently he ate a bat. And I'm like, come on, man. Like, who in their right mind would do that? You'd be snuggling up. You'd just want to share the body. You could hate that person. You'd be wanting to share the body. You're cold. You're sleeping on a cold floor. Right there, just saying, I need to be left alone. Like, again, this is just not.
But she's going to be a wisdom, and he's not happy about that.
Oh, my God. Give me a break. You know what I mean?
Well, is that our first introduction to the dream world? Is when that happens? And then Moiraine finds out that they all have the same bat dream, right?
Yeah, there was a dead bat by Rand, so I'm convinced
it was in his mouth.
Did eat a bat, right? He ate a bat.
Didn't he wake up with a dead bat in his mouth? It was disgusting.
And then just like pulled it out of there.
It was all like,
right? It was gross. It ate a bat.
It was gross. And so they all have, and of course we see a fiery eyeless individual. What did you think of the depiction of this person? Now, I guess that's not a spoiler.
Hated it.
That's an In Living Color reference.
It is. Wow, well done.
For you. And they actually say in the summary for the show that it is the Dark One, or a manifestation of the Dark One, called Balsamon. So that's who they all see, the fiery figure. Balsamon.
Yeah.
Balsamon.
Yep. All right.
And so Balsamon. But I thought he kind of looked like a pumpkin-y version of Ghost Rider.
Yeah. I could see that.
Yeah. And so he did not look super terrifying to me. He looked too much like a person who just kind of had like a pumpkin head on fire. And you wanted him to be more pumpkin. Yeah, well, I wanted more roundness. Yeah, I wanted more pumpkin.
You wanted him to be more plump, more like just a jack-o'-lantern. You just wanted a jack-o'-lantern.
Yeah,
you just wanted a jack-o'-lantern with a candle in it, and you'd be like, and there.
Because I love Halloween, because you get candy and shit.
Exactly, and it's a scary time. I know what you mean, man. I wanted more jack-o'-lantern. We didn't get it.
Putting a fire inside a pumpkin makes sense to me, and
it makes sense to everybody. That's why we do it every single year.
Because it's a totally normal and not weird thing for humans to do.
Right. So now another thing that happens after we have the dreams, everyone has the dreams. Now, finally, just now, right after everything that's happened, Rand starts asking like, well, where are we going? And like, well, why should I trust you? And you're kind of like, you're asking this now?
Right.
Like, shouldn't you have been asking that back at Edmund's Field or at some point? Like, what do you mean? Maybe just after you left the city? Like, where are we going? What the hell are we doing? Why am I trusting you? Who are you? It's like days go by and suddenly he's like, what am I doing? Who are you?
Right.
Why are we doing this?
Like, didn't you just see her like torch a bunch of beasts and save you?
Right.
I mean, like,
well, and that's the thing. Finally, Matt starts making some goddamn sense because that's what he says. He's like, well, yeah, maybe she's just doing it for her own benefit, but she also just used a bunch of fireballs to torch a bunch of people and saved us. So I'm going to go with her. And I'm like, yeah, exactly.
The voice of reason. Yes.
Thankfully. Well, he won't make sense later on, and we'll get to that. He starts being a dummy. But that moment right there makes complete sense. Yeah. Why wouldn't you just go with the lady who's shooting fireballs and protecting your asses,
But by the way, let's digress here real quick to talk about acting. Okay. We can talk about
thespians ourselves.
Yes. And so...
Okay,
that's my acting post.
Yeah, we're not good, but
yeah,
but we're thespians.
Nobody said we're good, but we're thespians. That means we can start fires with our minds. And so I do like a lot of the casting was pretty good and spot on. Some of it not so much, but I think Rosamund Pike is Moiraine. She at least looks exactly how I think Moiraine would look, and for the most part, I think she has done a very good job as Moiraine. Other than I think the one power weaving is over the top, but I don't think that's her. I think that's just how the show chooses to have the Aes Sedai use the one power.
Yeah, see, I'm going to disagree. I pictured Moiraine as Scarlett Johansson naked every single time in the book, and was very disappointed when I did not see that on screen, because I'm like, well, that's not fair. That's what I've been picturing this entire time.
She's been a topless Kate Upton the whole time. I don't understand what you're talking about.
A topless Kate Upton. I would have seen that too. Now, is that what I pictured? No, but that would have been great casting. You know what I mean? Like I could have understood that. But instead, a fully clothed whatever her name is. No, I mean that's just
whatever her name is.
Right, that's not for me.
The guy who plays Lan, I think does a good job.
I was picturing more of a Jason Momoa character in that role.
No, okay, so no, yeah, the only thing I would say is maybe a bigger, stockier guy.
Yeah,
right. Like you said, Jason Momoa he can only be in so many movies. He can only play so many
parts. Think he's got to start working more because he should have been in that role. He would have blocked that knife. It would have been a different show because Moiraine never would have been hit. Jason Momoa's there. You know what I mean?
Don't you think those Trollocs would have just walked in and seen him and been like, "We're not fucking with
that. We're out of here."
That's fucking
Duncan
Aquaman.
Idaho.
That's Duncan Idaho. That's fucking Aquaman. That's called Drago. I'm not messing with that guy.
Exactly.
Oh my God.
He always plays some tough badass. That is just his role. That's what he does, man. And you know what? He does it as good as anybody. So that's why we love him. So casting. Is there anyone else that you like, dislike?
Well, I think Rand, the kid who they cast as Rand, really I think looks and sort of acts like Rand pretty well.
Yeah, actually not bad. I would agree.
There's a lot of Hayden Christensen and Star Wars comparisons going on with him.
Yeah,
I don't think it's as cheesy. First of all, he doesn't talk very much, but in the books, Rand is kind of the childish, hothead, kind of awkward. That's what he is. The whiny. Yeah. He's kind of whiny in the books. Rand is whiny, and so yeah, that is pretty solid. And like Matt, he's quite a bit different. Matt's more of a mischievous younger kid in the books. But I forget what his name is. Barney something who plays Matt.
Rubble.
He steals the show. Barney Rubble. Trouble. Yeah. Reference to what movie?
13.
Is it?
Ocean's 13?
No, I think it's 11.
Oh, it is Ocean's 11?
Yeah, I think it's 11.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Well, shit.
Well, now we have to look it up later. We're supposed to know our references when we make them. Barney Rubble Trouble plays Matt, and I think he steals the show. I think he's fantastic. But did you hear that he has been recast?
No, I didn't hear that.
He left the show during production, and no one knows why. Like, no one is reporting why. No one knows if it was an argument with the producers, if it's a personal thing.
Whoa.
But he left the show in the middle of production, was gone, and deleted his social media, and he's off the off the grid.
Holy shit! This is more interesting than the show.
So
now, why did he do that? Like,
now
holy crap!
We're only going to talk about episode 2 tonight. I don't know how many episodes you've seen, right?
I've seen the first 3.
Okay, so something's going to happen with him where you're going to be like, "What the fuck? Why did that happen?" And now you're going to know why it happens because he's no longer on the show.
Really?
So, but they are recasting him. So, but they couldn't recast him, at the end of production. So he's being recast in the second season. A new actor is going to take over for him, who looks a lot like him, obviously. But like something's going to happen at the end of like episode 6, where you're going to be like, oh, now I know why this happened.
That's honestly shocking because I mean, like, why?
This never happens. Stuff like this never happens.
That's what I mean for your career. A show that's like this hyped right now and this big, people talking about it all over. Like, that's your big break. I don't recall seeing this guy in anything else. This is your big breakthrough, man. And you're just leaving the show. What is wrong with you?
But nobody knows. Nobody knows if he left or disagreement or was fired secretly. No one knows. Like, there's there's not even like rumors. Everyone's just like, no one knows why he left. He's gone.
Super hush hush. Wow, that is a mystery that we need to solve.
We need
to tune in next week,
this.
folks. While we put the puzzle together, we need one of these Charlie boards right in the background where we just have a bunch of like string and just random pictures of people and stuff everywhere, like Boss Hog and whatnot. Just random photos. Definitely. And we'll just like attach string and we'll just speculate wildly about what he could have done.
Karen!
right.
And I go down and you know what I find?
There was no Karen.
There was no Karen.
This place is a ghost town. So that's what we'll be doing next week is speculating wildly on what happened to the actor Barney Rubble that played Matt in this show. Why is he gone? What is he up to? What is he hiding? What did he do to those missing children?
Now we just sound like a tabloid. What did he do? What did he do to those missing children?
All right.
How much money did he steal? Was he part of Tiger King? Did he know? What was the guy's name? Don, the guy who disappeared. Don Knotts.
Right. Pretty sure.
Did he go to the Dominican with Don Knotts to open a secret tiger farm? I don't know.
I don't know.
Right? I don't know.
Right. Seems plausible to me though. If I'm the one connecting the dots here, that's what I'm seeing.
All right,
so
Tyler.
Next up,
Next up, yes.
So I was going to say next. What we have is so what do we have? We
they meet the Whitecloaks. They meet the Whitecloaks. Right?
They meet the Whitecloaks. That's right. Yeah. And when don't we see Perrin meet the wolves though? Perrin.
Okay, so this is a scene I want to talk about. They meet the Whitecloaks. It not a lot happens there. They have a little showdown. Valda kind of looks at Moiraine like he doesn't get it. People are complaining because the Whitecloaks are supposed to be like this cult that hates the Aes Sedai more than anything in the world. And after talking to Moiraine, the one Whitecloak's like, well, you should probably go see an Aes Sedai about getting that healed. And everyone's like, what the fuck?
What are you talking?
They would never say that. What are you...
And
what are you
it's
talking
stuff
about?
like that where the idea that like the writers of the show are huge book lovers. Like I haven't even read the whole series, and I heard that too, and I was like, wait, what? Like from what I remember from the first few books, like that's why would they?
Valda is killing them and cutting their hands off and stealing their rings, and then the guy next to him is like, well, you should go see an Aes Sedai.
Right, like
what the fuck are you even talking about?
Doesn't make any sense.
I don't want to talk about that. Yes, but before we get to Shadar Logoth, now, another complaint I have because we're just digressing all over the place is the pronunciations of the places and the people. Now, I have listened to the audiobooks, so like I like to read and listen to the audiobook, kind of go back and forth. So I've heard the audiobooks, the original audiobooks that the original narrator did for The Eye of the World, The Great Hunt, and The Dragon Reborn. And for example, right, it's pronounced at least. And I assume when the audiobook is released that they're talking to Robert Jordan for pronunciations, right? And like it's pronounced Shadar Logoth.
Well, he has a pronunciation guide in the book. There's a pronunciation guide in the book.
And then they say Shadar Logoth. And I'm like, that sounds like the way that someone from Michigan would go down to Kentucky and then like try to use a Kentucky accent. It just sounds so ridiculous, Right. Or like it's like she's gonna be mad at it. It's like my wife like trying to speak Spanish. If you're like, oh, how do you say thank you in Spanish? You say, oh, gracias. And she'll be like, gracias. And
Right.
I'm like, you sound so honky when you say gracias. What was that?
Like a huge horn outside. Holy crap. It's the Wheel of Time police.
You even jumped a little bit, I think.
That scared me. I was
You
not
did
expecting it. It almost sounded like a train horn. It was so freaking loud.
It kind of
Didn't it? It was loud. I got to imagine it was like a fire truck or something. Wow. It must be because we're just throwing fire right now. And so someone called the firemen to put us out because we're so hot.
Well done. Well,
thanks.
Well done. So anyways, the pronunciations, and it's those things too. And we get into it again in the audiobooks, all the classic ones. It's pronounced Tar Valon, and that's how they say it. Tar Valon. They go to Tar Valon, Tar Valon. And then you get to the show and they're like Tar Valon. And I'm like, again, that just sounds like the way someone would incorrectly pronounce it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why Tar Valon? It's Tar Valon. That's how they say it in every audiobook. And it's those little things that just bug me. And I don't know why, but they do. And so I'm going to say Shadar Logoth. I'm going to say Tar Valon because that's how it's been pronounced for decades because of the audiobooks.
And for me, it's not just the little things that bother me, it's the big things too. One thing, so Perrin can tame wolves, Justin, right? These wolves come up and he can just kind of tame them. But you know what I was not impressed whatsoever. I watched a movie where Chris Pratt tamed velociraptors. And so if I'm supposed to be impressed because some kid can tame a few wolves, I'll just point you to the newly updated Jurassic Park starring Chris Pratt to say that that's not that impressive. People can do much more exciting and fun things.
In the real world.
Right, that was a real movie based on a true story about Chris Pratt.
Doesn't even need fantasy powers. He doesn't even need fantasy powers.
No, absolutely not. That was about Chris Pratt actually being able to tame raptors. Now, Justin, the next thing I need to talk about, and this is really important, and this is honestly, if there are any fades watching right now, this is for you guys. So a fade shows up, Justin, and he's got the drop on. He's got the drop on our group, right? Our gang. That's gang.
Right. So are we cutting to the Rand and Matt, right?
Right. Yep.
See?
And then the fade shows up, right? And then it just like yells and screams, and they realize it's there, and then they take off. Right? When was that?
No, you're talking. That's episode 3. You're in episode 3.
That's episode 3? No, that's episode 2.
No, they go to Shadar Logoth.
No.
Where they meet what fade? What fade?
A fade is there, and it screams, and that's when they start running, and then they get chased by Trollocs as well, and then go to Shadar Logoth.
Okay. You're talking about it before they go. Then they go into Shadar Logoth. Okay,
exactly. Yes. But like the fade has the drop on Justin, has the drop on him, and then it just like screams and alerts. It alerts everyone.
lets them know
to its presence, and I'm like, what sense does that make?
Well,
you know what I mean?
The heroes have to survive for a much longer period of time, Tyler.
Right, but Justin, again, let some of them die. If this were Game of Thrones, and the Voldemort got the drop on him, a few of those bitches are dying. I'm sorry, some of them are going to die, and maybe one or two of them get to Shadar Logoth, right? Because you screwed up. You let them get the best of you now, but instead they just show up and start screeching with their, big old, I don't know what has a mouth like that thing.
It kind of looks like the Sarlacc, like a mini Sarlacc.
Oh, kind of like kind of like a bit like a Sarlacc, or God, who am I thinking of? Johnny Depp. No, it's not him, but it's right there though. It's someone like him.
It's very much like him.
There's an actor that I'm thinking of, looks exactly like this guy.
But I think I'm going to know, right? So you're talking about the fade alerts them. So they're running. They're being chased by the Trollocs. Now they get to a point where the Trollocs stop chasing them. They get to like the edge of the tree line or something, and they're just like we're not going any further. And then
because they're scared of water and buildings.
Go into Shadar Logoth, because obviously they don't have to go into Shadar Logoth.
Yeah,
because the Trollocs aren't coming any closer, right? So there seemed to be a fairly sizable foot gap, right, between them. So
that's a good point.
Couldn't they have just like walked around the edge of the castle to look for something? Instead, they just go in, and I'm like, couldn't you have just gone to the water? Couldn't you have walked around Shadar Logoth to the water?
Or just build your encampment right there. Live out the rest of your days. They can't come any closer.
The rest of your lives. There
You know what I mean? You're fine.
Eventually, they're going to give up, don't you think? They're going to starve to death.
They're going to turn around. Exactly. They'll have to turn around.
Or they're going to kill each other and eat each other. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah.
You know, you've got rations, you got your portions, you'll be fine. They'll turn around, they'll get bored. They're animals, for Christ's sake. They have the minds of Gary Busey.
They're animals.
They'll get bored awfully
They're
quick.
insane. That's the whole point. They're going to eventually eat themselves.
Fucking minds.
They have the mind of Gary Busey.
Exactly. So they're out of their minds. You just had to sit right there. Just camp it out. You would have been fine. Tell a few ghost stories around the campfire. And instead, they go into Shadar Logoth and all hell breaks loose, Justin.
So now it does. Now, of course, in Shadar Logoth, Matt finds the dagger. Of course, he's told not to touch anything, and of course he does because he's an idiot. And so he takes the dagger. Now this is kind of where everyone breaks up, But before we get to that, there's just these scenes, these little editing moments, and these are things that I'm talking about that shouldn't bother me, but they do. And it's the scene where the Mashadar, the darkness, is chasing them. And it creates that like gap between like Rand and Egwene, and they're kind of like, "Oh no, we have to go our separate ways." But at that time, the Mashadar was like this wide, and like Rand could have just stepped over it. Right. I mean, like very easily stepped over it. And like that's one of those scenes where it could easily come barreling, and they jump backwards, and it starts expanding immediately. Then it just doesn't feel like Rand could have just been like, "Oh, step over. Hey, Egwene, what's going on?" And they could have ran away together. God damn it, that stuff drives me crazy.
Well, and to me too, how it just always kind of seems to leave a path for them.
And it always comes like, why is it always like coming from away from them and chasing them? Why is it never coming at them?
Right.
Where does it start? Now, okay, suspension of disbelief. I can let some of that go.
And didn't we miss a big thing from the book? Wasn't there like a guy in the book who talks to Matt or so? Yeah, who was it? Because I remember that being like one of the cooler parts of the book was this fucking guy shows up and he's super creepy. Yeah, and there was like something about him, but then like he turns into this crazy ass monster or something like that at some point.
So I think in the books, and anybody who's a Wheel of Time fan, again,
it's been a while. It's probably been a couple years.
We've read the first couple books, and it's been a year or two, and we've read through them once. So, like, correct us in the comments if we're wrong. But I think Mashadar is that person in the books. That person
that's
who's
also
like
an embodiment of that.
Yeah,
dude?
Yes. And so, and that person is the one who tries to convince Matt to take the dagger. But in the show, Mashadar is just the darkness.
It's just the shadow.
It's just the shadow that's
all just kind of trying to herd him into different places.
Yes, I think.
It's really got a taste for horses, not really so much people.
It does. No, but there were some cool. Again, now I feel like we're just shitting on it constantly. But I mean, like there were some cool moments. And but I mean, like the time when the shadow like grabs the horse and how they kind of show, and like there were some cool scenes in these moments. Yeah. And again, like it's not like we hate the show. We just, as book readers, there's so many early changes.
Right.
And
so as book readers, we would say we despise it because that's it. That shows a stronger vocabulary.
Really adapt early on, very closely, and then as things progress and the stories split, that's when a showrunner really has to make choices and condense storylines and maybe eliminate characters or combine story arcs to make it fit a TV show. But they just immediately in the show made so many changes.
Yeah, I would just say, as a showrunner, all I would ask them to do is create a better show and just make it better.
That's a ridiculous request.
That's all. That's all I'm saying. If I had one request, again, I don't hate the show. I just am disappointed in it, and that's worse. And they should feel worse.
That's worse.
Because I'm not angry. I'm not angry with you writers. I'm just disappointed. My gosh. And then that's it. We got our horse turns to dust. You could probably go back, collect it, make some glue later if you want, if that suits your fancy. Then I think Nynaeve sneaks up on Lan, who is supposed to be... And think about this, Justin. So he's supposed to be this warder ninja who's the super protector of Moiraine, lets her get bested, hit right in the shoulder. Again, Jason Momoa would have been there fucking grabbing it with his teeth, but Lan just lets it happen. And then Nynaeve, not a warrior, just sneaks up on him. Like, what, man?
And puts a sword to his throat. And you're telling me Lan wouldn't immediately have just been like, boom, like arm down and like,
like I'm starting to think he lied on his resume. You know what I mean? There are people who did that, and she hired him without doing a background check, and now Moiraine's paying the price for not doing that. You got to look into people, especially for such an important position. You know,
Lan was a farmer for 10 years, and he gets the resume to be a warder, and he was just like 12 years as a warrior, captain warrior,
right? Captain warrior,
yeah.
Many swords,
sword play,
strong fight.
I actually taught sword classes.
Right. And then she's reading this. She's like, "Oh wow, sword classes.
This guy,
many
classes
has many swords. Like, wow, this guy sounds like he's right up our alley." And then, sure enough, she's about to be killed within the first couple episodes because of this incompetence. You got to be more careful. You know, sort your resumes more carefully. Let that be a lesson. I think that's what they're trying to get across.
That's the key takeaway from this
the moral
episode.
Of the story. Yep.
Yes.
And that's why this episode is brought to you by ZipRecruiter.
And that's episode 2, folks. Of the